Mama Knew by Anonymous 9, narrated by BedriddenBear. It was the suckers that pushed me over the edge. He took them up when I put my foot down about the cigars. The stogies came out of his mouth and he stuck the suckers in. Not only did that little white stick poking out of his pie hole look stupid, but the candy rattling in his teeth drove me insane. Tinkle, tinkle, rattle, clank. And then he chewed the dang thing, crunch, crunch, like ground glass going around in there. I tried earplugs, but the sound of my own breathing was worse than the rattle. I just needed it to stop. It was a mistake getting married, but Mama died so sudden, and I was missing someone to be close to. It came as an awful surprise, since she passed 2 short months after Daddy died, when it was all supposed to be hunky-dory, just Mama and me, happy at last. Anyway, Mama was gone, and I met Brock and married in way too much of a hurry. Lo and behold, if he didn't start up with the same stuff Daddy had plagued Mama with all their marriage. Oh, Daddy was terrible. Mama was always saying she was ready to kill him. And she was, but she never did. Daddy up and died first. Brock surely pulled every trick in the book to make me want to kill him too, just like Mama went through. Oh, the hours I stayed up with her as she shook with rage and wept over the very same things that turned out, like hogging the TV remote and secretly turning the heat down when we wanted it up. Brock and Daddy, two peas in a pod. Brock caught into the toilet lid business early on. How Mama used to shriek about that one. But the toothpaste cap? Not in this lifetime. Once the bee got in my bonnet, I watched all those reality crime shows where one spouse had the other murdered, and they proved very disappointing. It never worked out. Hit men are idiots and leave clues. And before you know it, you're in jail as well as out 10 grand to the hit idiot. An accident seemed the way to go. Trying to set it up as an assailant unknown was tricky. Once the police suspected murder, they trolled for the teeniest clues. But an accident, open and shut, cut and dry, now that was something else. They just collected the stiff and went to lunch. There were many scenarios to consider: falling downstairs, bleeding to death, eating poison, crushed by an object, electrocution, suffocation, drowning in the sink, bathtub, or wading pool, or my favorite, starved to death and eaten by animals. There was location. Should it be at home, at work, on vacation, or just after church? I personally favored the scenario of Brock torn apart by wild dogs, but they aren't very plentiful in the suburbs where we live. I wrote down all the possibles on yellow recipe cards and put them in 3 piles, and when I pulled one from each pile, the cards read that he was supposed to drown in bed at home. Now how the heck was I supposed to make sense of that? Well, technically, when a person's lungs fills up with liquid, they drown. Here, kitty kitty. That's how I called the neighbor's cat. He scooted right in the door. As soon as he smelled the tuna, I coaxed him on the bed and wrapped a pillowcase around my hand and stroked him from head to tail, picking up hair and dander. When the pillowcase was coated front and back, I tweezed off the hair, but left the natural oils and invisible dander intact. Then I slipped the case on Brock's pillow and smoothed it back into the place on the bed. By that time, the cat had the plate licked clean and allowed himself to be shooed out. Mama always said, work with what you got, and Brock's allergy was my gift from God. I worked with those allergies, bad allergies. If he drank his usual 2 beers in front of the TV before bed with half a sleeping pill dissolved, he would wake up much later into an asthma attack. And if the inhaler happened to be lost, he might die while I pretended to find it. Mixing beer with pills is bad, but not suicidal. Insurance don't pay for suicide. People do die from asthma attacks. Insurance pays for that. And that's pretty much how it went. I'm just waiting on the check. All the living room furniture got moved out right away. Said I couldn't stand the sorrow of looking at it. Really, it was to make room for new stuff soon as I'm done with the black dress. The only thing I don't like is the living room got a funny echo in it without the recliner and hide-a-bed. When I walk past the living room, out of the corner of my eye, I still see him stretched out in the recliner. Makes me jittery as a squirrel. Words flash on my tongue. Turn that TV down, or stop drinking that beer and put the garbage out. But I have to fight it back. Only a crazy person would shout at an empty room. Sometimes I do it anyway. An old saying keeps coming to me. To a widow, the sweetest sound this side of heaven is a man snoring. Mama and I used to laugh at it, taunt Daddy with it, that we'd never feel that way. So I can't understand why I'm thinking about it like it's tormenting me. To a widow, the sweetest sound this side of heaven is a man snoring. To a widow, the sweetest sound of this side of heaven is a man snoring. To a widow, sleep is gone. Seems like forever I walked past a mirror and hardly know that woman with straw hair and dark hollows under her eyes, so black they match her widow dress. I lie in bed waiting, and I don't know what I'm waiting for, remembering the sound of him coming up the stairs to bed with a sucker in his mouth. Tinkle, tinkle, rattle, rattle, clank. Here it comes. It's coming to me. Why Mama died so suddenly after Daddy. The screams rise in my throat, and I keep on and on until they bounce off the walls and jump back down my throat. Mama! I never heard the neighbor thumping at the door. Nothing but my own screeches ricocheting off the empty walls, bouncing around my skull. I only remember when the paramedic bashed through the door with a hypodermic needle outstretched. I was howling with all my force like I was staring death in the face and trying to scream it away. Mama! How do I live without a man to hate? Mama!